Welcome to Her Imprint, part of the Impressions Exchange. I'm Denise Gustafson, your host. This podcast celebrates the remarkable women who are transforming the printing industry. We'll explore their journeys, from challenges to triumphs, and share the stories that leave a lasting imprint. Today, I have with me Mardra Sikora, CEO of Write Printing and Pocket Folders Fast. So Mardra, welcome.
Hello.
Such a pleasure to have you today. To get us started, can you give me a little bit of history about Write Printing and Pocket Folders Fast?
Printing is a family business started by my great-grandfather, 1927. And Pocket Folders Fast is a little bit more of my baby, launched in 2016, specializing in selling pocket folders fast.
That's
To the
not very
distributorship,
shocking, given the name.
right? To the distributor market, wholesaler.
All right, very cool. So Wright's Printing been around for 98 years?
Yep,
That's phenomenal.
it's pretty exciting. So I started literally sleeping on the shop floor while my dad was working at the shop, as it is called. And he bought the business from his dad, and he is still the owner now, which I am actually super grateful to have him and his expertise around. And so that's where we began.
That's really cool. So you were sleeping on the shop floor.
Mm.
Did you have any other option but to go into printing?
Most teenagers are not going to do what their family does, even if they
Course.
do work there on the weekends and whatnot. So I went to college for early childhood education and communications, came home and started working at the shop when I couldn't find an opportunity I was happy with. And I promised I would only be here 5 years. We don't need to put a number on how many years ago that was. And I have grown with the business and also come and gone from the business because I have lots of things that I want to do in life. And so pursuing more than one thing has always been my jam.
Which is why kind of Pocket Folders Fast came up as well for you, I imagine.
Yeah, I was actually out of the print business doing other things. Like I said, I'm just as a sidebar. My son has Down syndrome. We're advocates in the community. We wrote books together, spoke at the United Nations. It's obviously something that's very important to us. And so I spent some time really focusing on that. And then in 2016, the opportunity came up to purchase a commercial printer. And Mark and I, my dad, decided that we would start a folder business then. So at that time, I was like, okay, I'm ready to do that now. And the technology had changed so much in the time I was out that it was a very exciting startup time. And I'm still geeking out regularly about it.
Honestly, that's the fun part, when you can find somebody to geek out over the technology and just all the things that can be done.
Yeah, I think there's a big resurgence in print in general because of the finishing technologies and the variable data in particular. And those areas make it renaissance. We come back.
hmm So what is it about the printing industry that keeps drawing you back? Is it partially the family connection, or is there something else that really calls to you?
It is partially the family connection, but broader than just like my family. The fact that printing is a very family business. The culture of our company is very family oriented. The people that I work with, we've worked on and off together for, again, hate to put a number on it, we'll say 30 years.
Close enough.
It's fine. And their families are our families. And so I think that's definitely part of the business I like, because when I'm working with distributors and other printers, they're often family businesses as well. So we all get each other and our struggles and our understanding of things and help each other. And so that's important. But also the whole ink in the blood
Mhm.
does come up. You look at the things on the shelves, you get excited about processes. You check out how a carton was made or how something feels, and you want to know. I joke with people that every artist has their medium and mine is folders. So there you go.
That sounds about right. I know for me at the grocery store, you pick up something and if the label has this texture to it, it's, oh, this is really cool. It's so interesting. I geek out over wide format stuff. I can't help myself. I go into museums and I look for the seams to see
Mhm.
how well they installed everything. And yeah, it's bad when you
And
do
that's
that.
kind of how I know as a new person to the business has really hooked and coming along is when they come into my office and they bring me a package of gum or something. They're like, oh my God, check this out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you've arrived.
Young Padawan,
There you
I
go.
see much in you.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So now you're working with your father in the business. What is that like to work for your father?
So when I was in high school, as is the custom, my father and I had a difficult relationship in my high school and early adulthood. And when I started working for him, that was actually the opposite of a lot of families. They struggle when they work together. We were the opposite. We started working together and it was great for both of us. He realized I had a brain and
Shocking.
had something to talk about and something to connect over. And our skill sets are different, which is great. We're both strategists. Entrepreneurial is part of the gig, but I'm a lot more marketing based. I'm way more customer facing. He's more technical on the production end. Now, to be fair, we have now a VP of operations who handles the day-to-day production and just rocks everything out of here. Mark, my dad. He really just hovers over the big picture and gets involved when we ask him, which is what I love, that I still have that I can talk to him about things and bounce things off him.
Yeah, he's had 1 or 2 or 3 more years of
Right.
experience than you
Yeah.
in the field.
He's better with the equipment than I am. I enjoy getting out there and I'm talking to the people all the time, but I rely upon the press people and the operators to tell me the things as opposed to me telling them how to do it.
And honestly, you learn from them as to what can be done, what can't be done, specialty things that can be done, especially if you're getting new equipment in-house. You lean on the smarter people around you for certain things.
Yeah, everybody's got their strengths, and that's the key, I think, to making it successful is discovering everybody's individual strengths and maximizing that area for them. A long time ago, I realized back in my food service days, if somebody likes to work the cash register, then let them work the cash register. They're going to do better at the thing they like. And that goes through every business, every industry.
Versus somebody slapping cheese on a burger that they just can't stand to do.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not fair that this person does this. Yeah, but you like doing that and you like doing that. So what's more fair? Let's have
Mhm.
people do what they're really good at. Because chances are, if you're good at it, that's what you like to do, and vice versa.
And you're gonna be better at it anyway. So you might as well play to the strengths of the folks that you.
Things. Exactly. That's a huge part of our team development is identifying people's strengths and then making the most of that instead of just hammering on the weaknesses. We've all got weaknesses. Duh.
Yeah.
So let's focus on the strengths and we move forward better.
How do you find their strengths? Does it matter of just trial and error? How do you find those strengths to help them to
Mm.
enhance them?
A few ways. One is back to the original kind of chicken or egg. What do they like to do? Because even if they're not doing that right now, so for example, we move people up from within most of the time. All of my current management team has started not as managers with us. So if somebody is on the floor and they're interested in becoming a machine operator as opposed to somebody at the end of the machine, following that interest is the first thing because interest leads to the strength. Honestly, part of it is what do they complain about too? Sometimes people come in and managers are like, oh, this person's always complaining about this gripper line not being right. Guess what? They're obviously have attention to detail. Let's make the most of that. How can they make it work? What are their ideas? You know, you hear about the squeaky wheel, but you want to make the most of it. People will tell you if you have an environment that allows it. And that's part of what you want to make the most of.
And it's interesting too, like trying to find somebody's strength. It's not like somebody, most of the time, you're not going to have somebody walking in the door saying, I'm really great as a press operator. I
Right.
don't think that happens very
Well,
often
to be
nowadays.
fair, with press operators, they always walk in saying it's
All right, bad example, bad example.
every other occupation, maybe not as much.
But somebody working the cutter, somebody
Right.
working the folder gluers, it's not like they come into you and say, this is all I want to do. This is my career path. I don't think they know most of the time.
No, most of the time people don't know. And I'm going to sidebar that a little bit and
Yeah,
say
sure.
one thing that I find interesting in our industry that is fun is how much art and creativity goes into it. So although we are manufacturing ink on paper thousands of times a day, I think what keeps people in the business a lot of times is that artistic self That's part of it. We have tattoo artists, we have visual artists, we have tons of musicians. Graphic arts up front is not the end of the line. People on the press and on the die cutters and on the gluers. I think that we attract, and this is where we should work to attract more that type of personality because they care about what's going out. They care about what's being made. They see the project and they're like, yeah, I used to joke years ago that if you had a black and white folder, it was 10 times more likely to be a problem, have the job go wrong than the high end folders because people really care about the high end ones and they work hard. And if it's black and white, they might be like, turn around, look at their phone, whatever. Now, so you want to give them that, having that ownership is important.
Yeah, having that creative leaning too, they understand that there's a process involved to get to that final product. Whether they're a tattoo artist or they are a musician, they understand that there is something that has to happen in order to get to that final perfect piece.
Right.
And they're willing to put the work in to do it.
Yeah. When you have that urge to create, then you're better in this sort of manufacturing environment because it's not just rote. You're not just putting screws into something. You're creating something that you may actually see later on the shelves. And I think that helps too.
Yeah. And there's that pride of work that comes into it that you can actually say, hey, I had a hand in doing this, that, or the other thing. Wide format graphics, is it something that you see because there's an event in town? Is it a package that you've done? Is it a mailer that you happen to be on the list of that company's mailer then, and you happen to get it as well?
Yeah, that's always exciting when people say, see it in the wild.
That's what I say too. Yeah, it's in the wild.
Printing United Expo is where the entire printing industry unites under one roof. Explore cutting-edge technology from over 800 exhibitors, see live product demonstrations, and discover solutions that can transform your business. With exclusive education sessions, expert insights, and endless networking opportunities, this is the must-attend event for anyone in print. No matter your role, Printing United Expo delivers the innovation, connections, and knowledge to help you stay ahead. Join us this October 22nd to 24th in Orlando. Learn more at printunited.com and experience the future of print today.
For you, in working with your dad and this being a family business, was there a particular moment that you really felt valued and respected? And not necessarily just because you were family?
Yes.
Short answer. Okay.
My mind goes to two different situations. One was many years ago, I was at a work-ish gathering. I don't remember if it was officially work sponsored or just a party of somebody's birthday or something. It was many years ago, but I was talking to a few other people that worked at the company and certain office politics came up, but I, at this time, was a customer service rep. And I said something about, oh, I could run for president. And two of the people looked at me and looked me straight in the eye and said, oh, I'd work for you. And my brain just went snap. Part of my brain went, that's not what I meant. And part of my brain went, pay attention. This is important. And it changed my perspective on my future because I was like, okay, I'm obviously setting down layers here and I need to follow that. And incidentally, both those people are still with me here and it's delightful. I feel very proud of that. In the current day and age, though, to be honest with you, when I'm traveling for Pocket Folders Fast and I'm like at a summit, where I can have one-on-one conversations about the cool things we're doing and what we offer and how we can help people. I get people really excited about folders, and that's something that makes me feel really good. They walk away going, I had no idea. And I'm like, I know. That's another area. And those people don't know anything about my business, my family, anything. It's just me and my excitement coming through and helping them get excited for what they can show their customers.
And watching that light bulb moment come on for them.
Oh, yeah, that's the best.
It's great. Even just in print in general, too, when that light bulb goes on for somebody that had never really been exposed to print before, like that person that runs in with the gum pack or whatever, just to finally see them or they finally see print, even though it's been around them for years, they finally actually see it.
Yeah. And when, again, since I deal with distributors, when I'm showing them something and I see that light bulb moment, then I just sit back and I'm quiet for a minute, watching them think about, oh, this customer, that customer, this can happen, that can happen. But sometimes then I'll prompt and say, I see the wheels turning, and then they'll volunteer who they're thinking about, how they can use that. And I'm like, yes, let's follow that.
Yeah, in some ways, a lot of what we do, like you said, is creative, it's artisan too, because you're creating custom projects, custom things
Right.
for a customer, for a client, for a brand, whatever it is. There's that certain work that then, like you said, it just pulls those types of folks in.
And you're all about emphasizing the brand. You're moving forward with what the brand stands for. And all of that with print is now very tactile and very expressive. And with a pocket folder, when you feel it, do you feel what that brand is trying to tell you? And
Mhm.
that's what's exciting.
And it's always interesting too to see how that tactile nature also attracts the different generations. Like the boomer generations, they're great with physical. Me, my generation, I'm a Gen Xer. It's fine, it's great. I love it personally, but my generation is not as enamored by it. But
Mhm.
then it's interesting to go into some of those younger generations, Gen Alpha, and how much they are looking at print and enamored by it because it's so outside their wheelhouse.
Yeah. But also using all of the things that print has to offer. Again, back to the variable, right? I often say that the younger generations, if you don't use their name, frankly, they're insulted. They know they've given you everything. They've given online everything about them. So if you give them a generic anything, it's what did you even bother?
Mhm.
It's important to remember to use all of those technologies. Somebody may say, well, I don't want to use the printed product for whatever reason. But then if you tie in the electronic things like the QR codes and the available options and how to track it and get to the information, it's amazing what you can do and should tie it all together.
Yeah, it's the should. But how many people are actually making those connections?
That's where it's important to educate all the way
Mhm.
down the line. Again, dealing with distributors, I educate the commercial printers and so on that I work with as to all of those things that are available so that they can educate their customer and on down the line. You don't
Mhm.
know what you don't know, but the first time you see your competitor doing it, you wish you knew it. So you want to be the one kind of showing that off.
And you wish you knew it before they did. So I guess the question is then, how do you educate yourself? How do you continue to develop professionally to understand all the things that are coming out? And what kind of are there certain activities, events, things that have really been impactful for you personally?
Definitely for me personally, the leadership events have always been really educational because people tend to be very open to those. And that is the key. Years ago, locally, there was a small group of us, it's like 7 print shops. President of each print shop would have breakfast once a month. And that was a real turning point for me because, again, we're all competitors, but we could talk about broader things that were really helpful. Of all things, one of the biggest things I took from that was to subscribe to The Economist because there was one printer who was very right leaning, one printer who was very left leaning politically. And I asked them both where they got their news. And that was one place they could both agree on. And I'm like, that's the place I want. And I've still subscribed because I feel like I get the best world view from this. It's a tiny example, but it is important when you're trying to make decisions. You want to have the best census.
Yeah, especially if you're looking at supply chain, you're looking at right now we're dealing with tariffs, all those things that are more than just local.
Within your walls. Yeah, it's hard to look outside of your own 4 walls. You have to make time for it. But that's something that from that point on, I vowed to be much better at. And there are pros and cons, but for me, understanding why a Chilean earthquake is why I can't get paper is important. Just not
Mhm.
only so that I can explain it to my people, so I can explain it to my customers, so that it makes sense. I'm not totally taken off guard.
Yeah, or a year or so ago, there was a strike in Finland or the transportation drivers. And all of a sudden we couldn't get paper from Finland anymore because the
Right.
transport
And
drivers were
most
not,
people aren't good enough.
and yeah, the transport drivers were not driving the paper from the mill to the port. Really
Right.
simple.
Yep.
But yeah, the paper was sitting.
Yep.
And yeah, it's things like that. It's outside your normal purview.
But it's good to know. And in recent years, the Printing United leadership brand chain before, I really get a lot from that. I get pushed a little bit too, which is what you want. You
Mhm.
get a little bit of, oh wait, I should look into that. I need to know more about that.
So I'm curious, in that little group that you had years ago, were you the only woman there?
Yes,
What was
absolutely.
that like?
Again, growing up in the business,
Yeah.
the only other women in the room were my grandmother and my aunt. So on the one hand, I was pretty used to it. Also, my dad is a single dad. So from age 5 on, I was used to just being the only girl in the room.
Yep.
I think I just came into it with so many questions and interests that it wasn't scary because I knew I had so much to learn and know. Yeah. And in my early travel days as well, it was predominantly surrounded by salesmen.
Yep. I can only imagine. In some ways, especially if you're going back a couple decades, it was the good old boys club.
Oh, yeah.
It's starting to change. But then my
Mhm.
question is, how can people be better allies to the women who are in the industry and also encourage other women to join?
I think that that's 2 questions.
I know, sorry.
That's all right, actually. So on the first point, I think that the most important thing for every ally of any group is obviously listening first and foremost. And speaking towards the travel point and so on, one thing that still bothers me is the lack of attention to safety for the women in our industry, particularly when it comes to traveling and events. I think that there's an inclination in a good man to assume that every other man in the room is good. And unfortunately, that statistically is not correct. And that is something that's not taken seriously for our traveling business women. I assume it's probably across business, but I know obviously this industry. I stand up for myself as much as I can, and I stand up for my colleagues. I have literally trained the women who travel with and for our company. For example, if you turn around, that drink is dead to you. Buy another one. That's easy, done. But you have to tell people these things. You have to proactively protect them. And there are certain events in our industry that I'm just shocked at the lack of attention to safety for the women. So I think men could be better allies by paying attention to that. And from there, I think that small but important changes could be made.
I'm just going to continue before we head on to that
Mhm.
second point. It's a good thing. I know it's something I've traveled as a single woman for 30 some odd years. And you learn how to be street smart, but a lot of it I had to learn by doing.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the question is that things that we can be teaching, that we should be teaching? Yeah, never put a drink down. Always hold it. Making sure that you know where you are, where exits are, being aware of your surroundings. There's so much that we can unpack just in that.
Yeah, listening to your gut feeling on things, having an awareness of when conversations may take an uncomfortable shift. You're like, okay, I don't want to blow things out of proportion and have the boys get mad at me. That is not, who
Mhm.
cares? We need to make sure that the women understand that this is about their livelihood and safety, and men need to respect that.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not an
Yeah.
easy walk between those two things.
And in some cases, knowing when you have to step away or should step
Mhm.
away from a
Right.
conversation that's going somewhere you don't want it to go.
Mhm. And we all have to learn that ourselves, but
Honestly,
we
so
also should encourage that listening, know who you can reach out to.
yeah, definitely. And honestly, everybody probably has their own tolerances as well.
Absolutely.
So it does become a personal
Mhm.
decision in many cases. Maybe you would have done something differently than I would have done in a similar situation, but those
Absolutely.
general principles, I think, are very important for
Mhm.
folks to know.
Yep.
But then, given that what we just said, we want to encourage women to come in. So, How do we do that?
So I think that if we embrace teaching each other to start with, I, again, would encourage allies to listen. And there certainly are
Mm-hmm.
allies in our industry in particular. But also, we need to help women to, again, it's a balance. Self-confidence is important, but part of self-confidence is recognizing when boundaries are being crossed over or there are potential decisions made by groupthink that aren't the best for you. So we just have to empower each other to make sure we're following that line.
And sometimes that's easier said than done.
Oh, it's always easier said than done.
All right, I was trying to be nicer. So, as we're wrapping up, my favorite question, I ask it of everybody, is knowing what you know now, your history in the printing industry, especially your family history in the printing industry, you coming in and out of the industry, the changes in technology, all the things that kind of make you who you are today. If you were just starting today as a 20-year-old, late teenager, just literally getting your feet wet, what advice would you give yourself?
I have to tell you, this wraps up with our last point. My first thought was I'd give myself advice, but that doesn't mean I'd take it.
True.
I thought of a lot of things that I thought, oh, I'd tell myself this, I'd tell myself that. And then I thought, you wouldn't have done anything with that info. Okay, so that out of the way, I think the advice I would give myself that I wish I most would take, and is still difficult, is rejecting the idea of failure. Because all along our lives, in every aspect, there are so many times when I have felt that a failure would be the end, or it was the worst thing ever, or how could I ever recover? And then here I am. And I'm not a person who thinks everything happens for a reason and it's all good. I don't. There are things that have happened that I think, you know what, I could have lived without that and have been a perfectly fine person. But learning from those things is important, no matter what. And so instead of allowing it to crush a little part of your spirit, just accepting that, guess what? Life is one failure after another as we go. And we have so many other successes along the way. At the same time, there are certain things that I thought would be, oh, if I did this, then I'll be successful. And I've done it. And I'm like, why am I still the same person? I still obviously want to go for all of those small successes along the way, but I would love to think that life would have been slightly easier if I didn't take failure so hard.
And maybe view them as a learning experience. Because, failure sucks.
It's
No matter how you
many
look
times
at it.
it's out of our control as well. As a point, I don't consider anything that anybody did during COVID as a failure, but it felt like it nonstop for 3 years, grasping and clinging and trying to figure things out. One of those examples that I could have lived without. But also, there were definitely things that I have learned about my community and how to cope and about my own strength that I did not know before.
It's a learning opportunity.
That's right.
And we certainly learned. We learned how to deal with a global pandemic, how it dealt with supply chain, how we deal with just interacting with people, maybe being a kind human. There's lots of stuff that we can unpack from what we...
I was afraid I was going to have to learn how to print without paper, but it never got that far.
That's good.
It was scary.
You might have been printing on like toilet paper if you've hoarded enough.
Exactly.
Mardra, it was a pleasure to chat with you today. So thank you so much for taking some time. I really appreciate it.
It was very nice. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to celebrate and amplify the voices of women in the printing industry. If you have a story to share or know someone whose journey deserves to be highlighted, we'd love to hear from you. Together, let's continue inspiring and empowering the next generation of leaders. Until next time, keep leaving your imprint. This is Her Imprint. See you soon.